people like me. You need people like me so you can point your f***ing fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
De la noche, Piñeiro.
Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news. Ow!
Okay, we'll start with this per Universal Boxing Promotions. Stephanie La Medicina Piñeiro comes with it on December 7th, Saturday, on the undercard of Baro versus Hitchins. The Vallamonesa, first world ranked in the WBA and IBF, will be measured against former world champion Ogladys Suarez.
Ogladys Suarez was a world champion?
I mean, not to my knowledge she wasn't. She never held any of the major four alphabet titles, as far as I know. Maybe she held one of those other titles, like the WBF or the UBO.
Yeah.
Unbeaten up-and-comer Stephanie Piñeiro of Puerto Rico sports professional record, an unblemished record of 7 wins with no losses, no draws, 2 knockouts. In what will be her second fight under the Matchroom banner, lest we forget, Matchroom signed her. They decided to pick her up, and Stephanie stands a legitimate chance of becoming a draw unto herself because of her fan-friendly style, her ring savvy, and being Puerto Rican. That helps.
Puerto Ricans support their own. I say it all the time. The Puerto Rican fight fan is to the East Coast what the Mexican fight fan is to the West and the Southwest.
She's going to be facing Ogladys Suarez, who's a lot more experienced in the paid ranks, the pro ranks, than she is in a manner of speaking, though has nowhere near Stephanie's talent level, her ceiling, sporting a professional record of 30 wins with 5 losses, 1 draw, 14 knockouts, having been knocked out 2 times in 36 professional bouts, being honest.
And I pride myself on my honesty.
Ogladys Suarez is more pinup model than pugilist. I mean, yeah, she's a pretty girl, easy on the eyes, but in terms of ability and what this is for Stephanie,
Showcase fight.
this is a showcase fight. If you know anything about Ogladys Suarez and you've seen her in action, you'll know she's nowhere near as fundamentally sound as a Stephanie Piñeiro, not as well schooled, doesn't come from the same amateur background. The last time she was in action was 2 years ago, opposite the ring Jadeja Green, who made her retire in her corner after 5 rounds in October of 2022.
Ogladys Suarez has had 1 fight in the last 4 years. 1 fight.
She sat out all of 2021, comes back, loses to Jadeja Green in 2022, sits out all of 2023, and she has yet to fight this year. So the way it looks, you're talking about a fighter that's coming off of 2 years of inactivity and has only had 1 fight in the last 4 years, where Stephanie Piñeiro was in action earlier this one in June opposite the ring Mexico's own Diana Tapia, who she thoroughly outclassed and came very close to stopping, if not for Stephanie's engine.
She got tired.
And I wouldn't say that Stephanie's got a bad engine so much as she's inexperienced. I chalk it up to inexperience. This is a fighter with only 7 professional fights that's not used to fighting in 8-rounders and 10-rounders.
So that's what a fight like this one is for.
Allowing Stephanie Piñeiro to bank even more rounds, garner more experience under the hot lights in a controlled environment, mitigating the risks the way promoters often do in the early stages of a fighter's career.
Bring-along fights are a necessary evil.
Enter Ogladys Suarez, who really is more pinup model than pugilist, because upon review, the girls that she did fight, the ones that she did beat, you're talking about a lot of girls with upside-down records, more losses than victories, journeywomen and gatekeepers. Any decent fighter, any fighter with any
skill,
ability, beat Ogladys Suarez.
Stephanie's gonna beat Ogladys Suarez. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if she stops her.
Scheduled for 8 rounds in the women's welterweight division, where Natasha Jonas holds the IBF, Michaela Mayer holds the WBO, Ivana Habazin's got the WBC, and Lauren Price has got the WBA. That's where this contest is taking place.
I think they should move her up.
I think Stephanie after 1 or 2 fights, should see about moving up to the junior middleweight division where she might have an easier time fighting for a full title, an alphabet title, against the champion, because right now, she's not on any of their radar.
The champions.
And I don't think she's ready for any of them. The champions that are there right now, she might have an easier time garnering experience at 154 while simultaneously targeting an alphabet title. The champions at 154 are a bit more beatable.
And she would be the A-side to any one of them. She would be the A-side to any one of the champions that are there for the simple fact that she's with a major promotional outfit, boxing on a major platform, and they're not.
At 154, whereas at 147, you know Michaela's with Top Rank. Lauren and Natasha are with Boxer.
Those would be more difficult fights to make for Matchroom. But at 154, none of the champions up there are with a major promotional outfit, so the world would be Stephanie's oyster.
It'll be a lot easier to get one of those champions in the ring for Stephanie if and when the time comes. I think she should move up there. In any event, look for the ring return of Stephanie Piñeiro opposite the ring of Lady Suarez early December on the undercard of Hitchins versus Bottle.
Keyshawn Davis had a sensational knockout over Gustavo's Lemos. What are your thoughts about that knockout?
Keyshawn looked like a motherfucker yesterday. I don't believe that Gustavo Lemos was the same guy. I felt like Keyshawn fought guys that was lesser opposition than Gustavo Lemos, hit him with a lot of big shots and never hurt them, never got him out of there. With Gustavo, the minute he caught Gustavo with any good shot, it was like he couldn't take it. I don't know. I feel like maybe it was. I feel like from knowing as a professional, the weight fucked with Lemos, because I know that he tried to make 135, couldn't. He came in at 141. The next day he only rehydrated to 144. So I know only gaining 3 pounds after weighing this. That's like big on the body. You know what I'm saying? That's like really big on the body. No excuses to Keyshawn. I do feel like Keyshawn would have beat him regardless of that, because I feel like Keyshawn's a great boxer, and he was able to watch my fight over and over and over to see what I did good and what I did wrong. So I think that with this team, with Bomac and all them guys, they game plan was Lemos wasn't going to beat Keyshawn that night regardless. With Keyshawn's talent and just the team he had.
Yeah, I don't really think we can attribute Gustavo Lemos' one-sided loss to the weight, because he didn't make it.
He came in 6 pounds over.
And they reached an agreement to where he could only rehydrate to, I think it was 148 pounds the day of the fight. Richardson Hitchins is of the opinion that might have affected Gustavo Lemos, but
It's no excuse, because Keyshawn made the weight. He made 135.
that Gustavo didn't have to make it, that he blew it by 6 pounds, that theoretically would have given him an edge because he didn't have to deplete himself. He didn't have to drain himself to get down there. And by the time they're walking in the ring, I think they said Gustavo weighed about 155.
Yeesh.
What I think Richardson Hitchins is struggling to reconcile is why Gustavo couldn't take hard shots. He couldn't take Keyshawn Davis's punches.
But he was able to take his.
And I don't think it's coming from a mean-spirited place or a bad place. I just think Richardson Hitchins is struggling to understand why Gustavo was so solid with him and didn't seem solid yesterday. Well, 1, Keyshawn's a harder puncher than you are. That's 1.
2,
he's sitting on his punches and you're not, because you're different fighters that have different base styles. Like I said in my previous video, Hitchins Richards is a pure boxer.
Keyshawn is a boxer puncher.
Those two different types of fighters react differently to the same stimuli, where a boxer puncher might hold their position a little more as a pressure guy approaches, as a pressure guy applies pressure. The pure boxer don't react to the pressure the same way. They retreat. They give up that ground. They get on the balls of their feet and try to create distance between themselves and the pressure guy. So when you get on your toes to move around, you're not sitting on your punches, and there's not as much power on them because you're on your toes. Proximity at which a fighter likes to fight a fight. A lot of pure boxers you see today like to stay on the outside of the guy to keep the guy at arm's length, whereas a boxer puncher, they're not limited to boxing from the outside. They're all right, mixing it up mid-range to inside, like Keyshawn.
It's another difference.
Fighters' work rate too, and their ability to string together combinations. You'll get that from a boxer puncher long before you get it from a pure boxer like Hitchins Richards.
They're different.
You're spending so much time moving away from the guy as he barrels forward. You're not going to land with the same authority as a Keyshawn Davis, as a boxer puncher who doesn't retreat, who doesn't give up all that ground as the guy gets closer, they hold their position a little more to stay in position, to land hard punches.
Hard counters.
And that's the difference between how a boxer puncher handles pressure and how a pure boxer handles pressure. The pure boxer, once that pressure's being applied, they kind of panic.
Kind of.
They don't want a close quarters fight, an inside fight, a phone booth fight. So if a guy suddenly gets close to them, they just want to get on their toes, get on their bike, create distance, keep distance, and fight at a slow, controlled pace.
From a safe distance.
As not being able to makes them uncomfortable. Don't you notice that a lot of these pure boxers, a lot of these guys are outside fighters, they don't like to throw that many punches in a round, and they don't like to spend a lot of time in the pocket.
Makes them uncomfortable.
Whereas a boxer puncher, they handle that pressure differently. They use it to get off hard counters. The openings they're looking for are created by the pressure fighter applies.
It's different.
And that's all it is. They react differently to the same stimuli because they're different fighters with different base styles, different tendencies, different everything.
It's different.
Richardson Hitchins has got his own problems. He'll be traveling to Puerto Rico soon to take on reigning IBF super lightweight champion Liam Botto, who can prove to be a handful himself and has shown some adaptability in the past because he faced a pure boxer in Montana Love who he was able to stop, and he's coming off a big win over a pressure guy and then champion Subriel Matias.
And the both of those assignments required a different approach from Liam.
In his last fight, he had to move and punch, box and punch against the pressure guy. But before that, when he faced Montana Love, he had to be aggressive. He had to be the spiteful one, the one coming on and putting pressure on the moving target. Richardson Hitchins likes to make himself a moving target. He's tall for the weight, long for the weight.
Not big on power, but he is big on defense.
It's up to Liam to get inside on this guy, get through those defenses and land hard punches. You can't let it go to the cards. Gustavo did, and you see what happened to him.
He got jobbed.
You might too, if you let the finesse fighter go about fighting the fight the way they want to fight a fight, at a slow, controlled pace, from a safe distance.
That fight's right around the corner.
This is Hitchins Richardson's maiden world title bid, the first time he'll be fighting for a full alphabet title. We'll see how he makes out.
I mean, we are talking to PBC about the potential of Stanionis v Boots. Obviously, it'd be great for us if Giyasov could beat Stanionis, but they have made us an offer. We're waiting on an official time frame for that. We would like Giyasov to get his shot, hopefully, in the next month or two, and then Boots can fight the winner of that fight. That would be great.
I've been wondering about this fight and what's going on behind the scenes. Eddie Hearn provided some clarity that the PBC are making a play to do it on their side of things, but ideally, Eddie wants it to go down within the next 2 months. And we know that the PBC have been facing budget constraints all year, mostly because they don't actually have one. Amazon hasn't given them one. It's just a distribution deal. They're helping them to distribute their pay-per-views, but they've no stock.
No stake.
No investment. It's just a hub. It's just a place for you to buy their fights, but that's it.
What are they offering Team Giyasov? And a Team Giyasov gonna take it?
If Team Giyasov don't like the money, irrespective of Eddie and irrespective of Matchroom, because all that really boils down to Giyasov himself and his management, whether or not they want to accept what's being offered. If they don't accept, it goes to a purse bid. And then, if it goes to a purse bid, TGB and PBC can bid on the fight, Matchroom can bid on the fight. But this is not the kind of fight you break the bank over, as neither Shakram Giyasov or Imantas Stanionis, champion that he might be, newly crowned, are all that well known in America. And this is what Stanionis turned down an offer from Matchroom to do. To end up fighting this guy, end up being ordered to fight this guy that might beat him. The fight happening on the PBC side of things increases Stanionis' chances of staying champion if it does happen there.
Still a chance that it won't.
Because we don't know if Shakram Giyasov is going to accept what they're offering. There was a story earlier this week that the Uzbeks want to do it in Uzbekistan on their side of things, and if they put up more money to do the show than the PBC... That's irrespective of Matchroom. Apparently somebody over there in Uzbekistan wants to pay for this thing. Shakram Giyasov is one of those standout Uzbeks from the amateurs, Shakram Giyasov, MJ Akhmadaliev, Israel Madrimov, Bektamir Melankuziev,
Uzbeks.
Bakadir Jangalalov.
Big Uzbek.
I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if the PBC are going to end up doing it or somebody in Uzbekistan is going to end up doing it. I don't know. I just know that the PBC were only able to do 5 shows this year, a grand total of 5.
A far cry from the number of shows they used to do in the calendar year when they had both Fox and Showtime giving them a budget. Hell, even last year, they did about 19 shows last year. 5 is a far cry from 19.
They are now operating at a much reduced capacity. So when it's on them to do a show and do a show in a timely fashion, anything could happen. Consider that Stanionis only fought once this year. Gervonta Davis, one of their star fighters, they only got him out once this year.
He only fought once this year. When you can't get your star fighter, one of your star fighters, out more than once, what kind of message does that send?
With only a little over a month left in this calendar year, it's conceivable that if the PBC are trying to do this fight, it's for early next year, as an undercard fight for, say, Davis versus Roach.
In January.
They're not looking to make this thing a main event, I don't think. I think they want it to be a decorative item on Gervonta Davis's undercard, or maybe Benavidez versus Morrell's undercard, whichever one of those fights they end up doing, unless they just pair them all together on the same show.
Undercard.
You're not going to make so much money, but so much money boxing on an undercard, whether it's Gervonta's undercard or David's undercard, you're not going to make but so much money. You turned down an offer to unified titles with Boots Ennis this year to box on somebody else's undercard when you could have been headlining. You could have been the main event.
Stupid.
Now, you better hope that your people win the rights to this fight. You better hope they're the ones that do it, because that's your best bet to keep that alphabet title, what is your only bargaining chip in today's welterweight division, because without that, you're worthless. Not smart business, and not a smart move, because Shakram Giyasov ain't just some Joe Blow. This is a standout amateur.
One of them Uzbeks, one of them hot potatoes.
And if all you've got to rely upon are the same people that couldn't get Gervonta Davis out there more than once this year, you're relying on them to put this together in a timely fashion. We'll see if they can.
They couldn't get David Benavidez out there more than once either.
Well, yeah, but David's supposed to be injured, isn't he? Injuries that he suffered after the Alexander Vajdik fight?
I don't buy that shit.
Why not?
What injuries did he suffer? What, his hand hurts? What, he hurt his pussy? Hurt his little pussy?
I don't think they could afford to get David Benavidez out there more than once this year, the same way they couldn't afford to get Gervonta out there more than once this year. That's what's going on. Budget constraints.
So what do you imagine they're paying for a Stanionis versus Giyasov fight, even if it is a title fight?
Eddie seems to be letting them take control, so to speak, letting them foot the bill if they can, because if they can't, I'm sure he'll step in.
He'd have to. They promote Shakram Giyasov.
Though it's still a fluid situation to where, from the time the fight was ordered till now, we should have heard something more conclusive, something more finite. What's the ETA on a fight? What are we looking at? Early January? Late January? February?
What are we looking at?
It's taking you so long. Where's Al Heyman? I thought you guys said he was back.
He's gonna straighten everything out. Isn't that what you said?
It's what you said.